Boop bop, skita badoop bop bop, I can't talk.
Let's meet at the library. Okay.
Hey everyone, it's Julia, and welcome to my channel, Shakespeare and Such. I'm back. We're gonna skip any pre-ramble with excuses and blah blah blah. Life is busy, you know? But yeah. But the point is not to talk about my busy life. The point is to talk about books. So I wanted to come and give kind of an overview of my reading year. So I'm going to be doing the best books I read in 2017, the worst books I read in 2017, the books that I'm most anticipating for 2018, and then once the calendar year is actually complete and I've read till the very last second I can, I'm going to do a breakdown with some stats about comparing my reading year in 2016 and 17, which might not interest you, but it was very interesting to me looking back, so we'll see if people watch it. But that'll be coming in early January. Anyways, so for this first video, I wanted to start on a positive note and talk about my favorites of the year. I thought about doing like top 17 of 2017, but that seemed like a lot of books to get through, and you know me, I can get kind of rambly, so I decided to do my top 7 and my worst 7 of 2017. So let's just get started. I'm so excited. Now these are in no particular order. These are just my favorite books of the year, and I'm just excited to talk about them, so let's just start. First up, we have Paper Girls. I actually read the first volume in 2016, so goodbye. But I read volumes 2 and 3 this year, and I have loved them all equally. This series of comics just continues to warp my brain every time I read them, and I love the art. Like, the colors in here are so gorgeous. And it's just crazy sci-fi madness. I love getting to know these girls. Oh, if you don't know, I always forget about synopses, you know? If you haven't heard of Paper Girls, somehow, a lot of people talk about them. This is a series of comics about 4 newspaper delivery girls from the 1980s who experience a lot of strange things, and it takes a very sci-fi turn, as you might start to figure out from these covers. Oh, and my favorite thing about how beautiful these comics are is that they all, like, fit together. Hold up. I cannot do this. I don't have enough hands, but, like, do you see that? It's stunning. But yes, these have gorgeous art, an amazing story. I love, 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 love the characters, and you would think there's not a lot of time for character development in these short little comic bind-ups, but yeah, every volume I love these girls more and more. So really excited for volume 4. Not sure when that will be coming out, but I will get my hands on it ASAP when it does. Next up is something very unexpected, not because I haven't heard great things about this book, because I heard great things about this book, but because I am not a big fan of contemporary at all. I have a high bar on contemporary of what I like. But The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis, oh, this book won me over. I can't even talk about this book without, like, my heart starting to flutter. This story is incredibly well crafted and so moving. It's about a girl named Alex Kraft who, her sister a few years ago was sexually assaulted and murdered, and since then Alex, I mean, it's not a spoiler, it's what the book's about, she was hunting down her sister's killer to kill him, and so she has these very violent tendencies. She is very sensitive about actions towards women, but we also get 2 other points of view, and one is like popular guy in school, and I mean, you know, like, do I have to say any more? Like, you kind of get who that guy is already. And then also PK, who's the preacher's kid. That's what her initial nickname stands for. And so she's very, like, I mean, kind of sheltered, but she branches out a little bit, you know, and it's the way their 3 lives come together that makes this story so emotional and powerful, and it's, you know, a huge critique on rape culture and what that looks like in today's society. And it really is a very tough to read but powerful story, and can't recommend it enough. So good. Next up is also something that I'm not too well versed in, and that's a middle grade book, The School for Good and Evil by Soman Chainani. Did I forget to mention authors earlier? Who knows? We'll figure it out when we edit that, right? I have already gushed about this book. I'm aware that I've gushed about most of the books in this video, actually, but, you know, a favorite's a favorite. This series is so delightful. I've read the first 2 books already this year, and I own the 3rd and then like the 4th, but it's really a new series that's branching off. I don't know how it works because I haven't finished the actual first series, but these characters are adorable. I love Agatha with all my heart. Tedros is such a sweetie, but then a little less so in the 2nd book, but my heart hurts for him. And then Sophie, I am terrified of, but I love. But I'm scared of her, but she's my daughter. So, like, ugh. But it's such a fun series. It's so fun to go back to, like, a magical school setting. It feels a lot like when you read Harry Potter for the first time and you're like, whoa, Hogwarts, look at all this stuff, the way they do things here. That's how this book feels, kind of jumping into it, for me at least. And, yeah, it's just really cute, and I'm excited to continue on with the series next year. Next up is one of the earliest books that I read in this year, actually, and that is Scythe by Neal Shusterman. This book was so cool. I thought, you know, after like the whole Hunger Games craze, I kind of thought like, okay, dystopian, we get it. You can't really top this, like, that's it. But this world is so interesting, and I feel like maybe as I read it, I had like a few questions of potential loopholes. The world is so cool and interesting. It's basically this utopian world where sickness and injury have been eliminated, so no one can die naturally, and the only way they can control the population is through a select few who are called Scythes, and their job is just to kill people. But it's really interesting. Like, there's rules. You can't kill too many of a certain kind of people or you can get in trouble, and there's like certain ways you have to do it. It's so interesting. And this book is about 2 teenagers who are apprenticed to a scythe and are training to become scythes themselves. And it is just a doozy. There are some twists in this book that like had my heart going. And it's interesting, too, because I thought this book would have made a really solid standalone. And then when I found out that there was going to be a sequel, I was like, I mean, I'm here for it. I didn't think it was necessary, but I will read it. So, yeah, spoilers. That's one of my books that I'm going to be most anticipating in 2018. Scythe, really good one. This favorite of 2017 is actually a reread for me. I had not read it since high school, but I've read it twice during high school, and so I decided to listen to it as an audiobook. That's Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I love this book so much. This is one of my favorite classics. I mean, certainly favorite modern classic. I can't think of anything that would compare to it in like 20th century literature in my mind.
This was written in the 20th century, right?
Yeah, 1950s. If you've never read Fahrenheit 451, it's essentially this dystopian world in which books are not allowed. You cannot read or own books, or, you know, it's like when you think about the way drugs are in modern society, it's like you can't use them, you can't have them, you can't sell them. That's what books are in this world. And so firefighters in this story do not put out fires, but they start fires where there are books. And this story centers around a man who is a firefighter and then gets his hands on a book. And things kind of go from there. And it is so powerful. The writing I always thought was rather simple, but it's actually really beautiful in some places too. It features one of my favorite minor characters, Clarice Girl. You're cool. kind of like Luna Lovegood before Luna Lovegood was Luna Lovegood. And it's another really powerful story, and I love it. And it's not even that long. And I would recommend the audiobook also. It was quite good. So yeah, I can't go wrong with this one. All right, my second to last book that I'm talking about today is I Darken by Kiersten White. Oh my lord! I read this and the sequel, Now I Rise, this year, and these characters like really pull at my heartstrings. This story is not a fantasy. Don't listen to Goodreads. There's no fantasy element in this. It's a historical, like a speculative historical fiction, if you will, where Vlad the Impaler is actually a girl named Lada, and she and her brother Radu are, you know, this Romanian royalty, I guess, or like nobility at the very least, and it's just, I don't even know how to explain the story because I don't want to give much away. It's a pretty big honking book, but I love them so much. They're such good characters. And it's very interesting too because the third main character that I would consider, I really enjoyed at the beginning of this book, and I liked him less and less and less. So it's kind of interesting the way that played out, because I think we're supposed to still like him a little, or not. It's really hard to tell. It's really hard to tell between this book and the second book. I keep glancing up there because I can see it right on my shelf. Yes, so I absolutely love this series. When's the third book coming out? Pause. I did not realize, but the third book is coming out of July of 2018, so more spoilers. That's going to be on my list. The only reason that the sequel, Now I Rise, isn't also on this list is because it's very, like, war-centric, and I just hate reading battle scenes. Like, every time there's a battle scene, Harry Potter, The Hunger Games, like, even in my favorite books, a battle scene, I'm just like, what? I can't. Yeah, there's so many good things in both these books, but this one, I think, is a little bit better than the first. And now I'm so excited for the third. Oh my god. All right, time for number 7. My last favorite book of 2017. Potentially just my favorite book, period, right now. Wow, really? Maybe. I don't know. I have to think about that. Whoa, that was like a powerful thought that just happened. Yeah, I talked about this in my mid-year wrap-up, I believe. It's Jane Steele by Lindsay Fay. This book is so good. Oh, this has a lot of the same themes as The Female of the Species, frankly. Whoa! I love powerful women. This book, I Darken, Scythe, Female of the Species, these are all straight up books about women killing people. Am I okay? Anyways, Jane Steele is a kind of retelling-ish of Jane Eyre, which, by the way, I haven't even read, so, like, I should probably do that, right? Probably. I own it. But Jane Steele is this girl who's there's so many, it's hard to talk about this book because there's so many different distinct stages in her life that I don't want to go ahead and spoil what's coming next, but just talking about the very beginning of the book is super boring. But she is an orphan, and eventually she kills people at different periods, and it's always like the worst man you can possibly imagine, and like that's who she murders, so you're like, I support you, Jane. Murder's bad, but I support you. And it's just so good. And this book is beautifully written. Like, all of these books, great stories, awesome characters, love them, but this, I think, elevated and stood out from the pack in terms of the writing, which is what pushed it ahead. But yeah, I love you. Okay, bye. And that was it. Those are my top 7 books that I read in 2017. If you have read any of these books, please let me know. I would love to continue to gush about them in the comments with you. So let's do that. Or if you haven't read any of these books, highly suggest picking them up. You can't go wrong, in my opinion. I mean, maybe you can, because that's how opinions work. But, you know what I mean, right? Thank you all so much for watching. You'll see more of me soon. Actually, I mean it this time. I swear to God.